Republicans ready to rain subpoenas down on Hunter Biden. New House Speaker Mike Johnson signaling that a new phase in the impeachment inquiry into President Biden could be starting.
We are going to follow the law and follow the Constitution. And I think you and I have a suspicion of where that may lead, but we're going to let the evidence speak for itself. And I look forward to rolling that out over the coming days and weeks and letting the American people see exactly why we're taking the next steps and where it's headed.
Are you expecting to subpoena Hunter Biden?
I'm looking at that. I think that desperate times call for desperate measures, and that perhaps is overdue. We've not made a full decision yet.
The House has been busy gathering evidence, but the media is trying to dismiss it. Politico doesn't think it's a big deal that Joe Biden received a $200,000 check from his brother, James Biden, which the White House says it was just some money Joe loaned him when his brother needed it. They keep saying, Jesse, no smoking gun. This is the time in which you unfurl the arsenal of smoking guns. You have 2 minutes and 18 seconds.
I don't need it. Jessica and her ilk for years have said, well, you don't have money going directly into Joe Biden's bank account. All right, so now we have a check for $200,000 from one company through the brother to Joe's bank account. Okay. You still say, okay, well, that's not from overseas. That was a loan. Okay. What happens if the next check originates somewhere really bad, Jessica, and I mean really bad, and it goes through Hunter or it goes through James and it goes directly into Joe Biden's checking account? Is that your smoking gun? Is that your smoking gun, Jessica? Because you said that was a smoking gun. If money went from overseas directly into Joe Biden's bank account. If a check comes out at some point from that avenue, is that a smoking gun?
Okay. So two things.
Yes or no?
No.
Yes or no?
It's
no,
not
it's
yes
not.
or no.
It's not. Whoa. Jessica. For a year, you said, oh, well, the money never hit his bank account. What if I have a check that hits his bank account that comes from overseas?
Okay, so
is that not a smoking gun?
Okay. Is he in elected office and did he do something about it? So that check, that 2018 check, when he was not doing anything except hanging around and there was an explanation for it. So if you get a check and then you can connect that to an action that he took.
Oh, no, now it's an action that he took.
That is always
now it's just an action that he took. Because before you said none of the money from overseas went into his checking account. So now it's an action.
You are yelling and there is no reason for it.
There's reason.
No,
I was promised a smoking gun, and if I deliver a smoking gun, you have to admit that gun is smoking.
Excuse me, can I just say something to all the guns out there? Don't smoke.
It's really bad for you.
Thank you.
Can I say something else?
Yeah, you can finish your yes.
Okay. I appreciated that, Jesse. I always learn something from you. Point out, so the new speaker, Mike Johnson, hardly a resounding we got it when he says desperate times call for desperate measures. And the reason that he said that is because James Comer last week is with a gaggle of Hill reporters and said, I don't know that I want to hold any more hearings, to be honest. Now, if you had it, if there were any smoking guns around, you'd probably have more hearings.
Well, okay, where'd the car come from? Where'd the car come from?
What?
They bribed him with the
Oh, my God, and I have a diamond stuck in my hair and whatever else you're going to say.
That's
I would
from China.
encourage everyone to read. Jamie Raskin has a new report. Fake member of Congress. Okay. And it lists the top 10 Comer falsehoods, including the BS testimony that was billed as going to be some smoking gun again, and it was a Chinese foreign national who's dead. Devin Archer's testimony, go look at that Biden obstructed the investigation. No guns have been smoked yet. I'm sorry to disappoint.
You want to see two smoking guns?
Yeah.
That was my way of getting out of it. Judge, the Dems love to say Trump is not above the law. Well, neither is the Biden syndicate family.
Oh, yes, they are. Joe Biden is president. Of course they're above the law. I mean, give me a break. Of course they're gonna subpoena Hunter. But you know what's so special about the loan check that went from James to Joe? Repayment of a loan. Prove to me it was a loan. I want to see the loan document. I want to know what the interest was. I want to know the payment schedule. I want to know what would happen if there were a penalty. Is there a prepayment penalty? I mean, 2001 fell swoop. Hey, that just reads repayment of a loan. That doesn't mean anything. All right, now let's just be really clear about this. He's never going to be able to prove it was a loan because James got it from a hospital, James Biden, where there was all kinds of corruption and fraud, and there were lawsuits for that, and James had to pay money back. But let's just say that the Democrats can go against Donald Trump for 4 years on Russia, okay? But God forbid the Republicans try to unearth the $24 million that's gone into the Biden family accounts. Forget about this, which reports are the SARS reports. Forget about the emails, the text messages, the photographs. Yeah, I know I have to be quick, but at the same time, there are millions of dollars, $200,000 with no explanation. Hunter says half of his income goes to his father. Hunter pays for his father's personal expenses. Email aliases that Joe Biden uses to talk to Hunter. Photo of Joe Biden with Hunter's business partners. When Joe says he knows nothing about his son's businesses. The president of the United States has been lying to us, and he's been protecting his son. That's enough for an investigation.
Dana?
I'll just say that so much for the most transparent administration in history, because they're so trying to hide all of this. And if you take for the Republicans' advantages right now, they have it on inflation, border, war, crime. You take all of those issues, you focus on those, and then you might additionally have evidence of a smoking gun. The Republicans would be
the monster they created. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Biden's chances for re-election are nosediving, and his campaign is getting very nervous. CNN describes the uneasiness that many Democrats feel about a president whose age is twice his approval rating. And this from Axios describing how private polls show the same hurdle as public ones: brutally low popularity on the topics that matter most to voters. Now, Biden's getting crushed on his handling of immigration, crime, and inflation. It's not death by one issue, but by a half dozen at once. And it gets worse because he's even managing to alienate his strongest voting blocs. His unwavering support for Israel, which has been America's policy for many decades, even during their bloody counteroffensive against Hamas, is turning off a big chunk of both younger voters and is also at odds with many African-American voters. A recent Quinnipiac poll found that 51% of voters under 35 say they disapprove of the United States sending weapons and military support to Israel. That's a much higher figure than the 28% of Americans who oppose such a policy. Now, the CBS News poll conducted earlier was even worse for Biden. 59% of respondents under 30 said the U.S. should not send weapons and supplies to Israel. And for those between the ages of 30 and 44, 64% said the U.S. should not. Now, these age groups were key to Biden's election in 2020. And given these and other terrible signs for the administration, it's about time someone asked Joe's understudy a tough question.
A recent CBS poll found that at the beginning of President Biden's term, 70% of young people under 30, said he was doing a good job. Now it's less than 50%. Why is that?
If you poll how young people feel about the climate and the warming of our planet, it polls as one of their top concerns. The challenge that we have as an administration is we got to let people know who brung it to them. That's our challenge. But it is not that the work we are doing is not very, very popular with a lot of people.
Now, think about what Vice President Cackles is saying there. People are super happy, but they just don't know how super happy they are. Wow. Speaking of being in denial.
The world is on fire, one would argue. Joe Biden just went into a second extremely difficult hot war zone and dealt with world leaders, sat in on a war cabinet meeting in Israel, is able to navigate relationships that he has developed over decades. And yet it's going to be close between these two guys.
Now, the man in 2.5 years took us from peace and prosperity to war and inflation. And over at MSNBC, they're shocked that he's not soaring in the polls? Now, of course, the press is just mad that their narrative didn't stick. Because during the tussle over the speaker's race, of course, they hammered the Republicans that they're hopelessly divided. That theme went on and on. But the truth is, the real discord is between Democrat voters and Democrat policies, especially on the war issue, which the publication Vox cites as Biden's major vulnerability. The perception of Biden's ownership of this war will only grow as Israel expands and extends its siege of Gaza. That's bad for Biden's electability, with so many young American voters increasingly critical of his unfettered backing of Israel. Now, who makes up the Democrats' anti-Israel, anti-war coalition? Well, many of the same types of voters who went door to door for Joe in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania. That's who.
I feel like that whatever Hamas did was for a good cause, to get back our land.
We know that the Palestinian people have been so resilient in the face of many invasions like this, and we hope that Palestine will continue to fight for their right to be free.
Israel bombs, USA pays. How many kids did you kill today? Israel bombs, USA pays. How many kids did you kill today? Palestine to Mexico.
Now, for years now, the Democrats have been trying to hold together what's ultimately an unwieldy coalition of the old Clinton types, who are always eager for U.S. military action, and the anti-American lefties that we saw in the summer of 2020, and now, once again, in the pro-Hamas protests across the U.S. The current situation in the Middle East is straining that coalition in ways that could cost Biden enormously in 2024. Trump, who's staunchly pro-Israel, but still a pragmatist on foreign policy, is already pulling some young voters from Biden. Republicans, they should not bail out the Democrats by nominating a candidate who would just greenlight the funding of not one, not two, but three wars at one time.